All right, welcome back, everybody. Today's special guest or agent-focused Zoomcast guest is Gemma Ferguson of Ferguson's Travel, and she's given up some of her time today to jump on and give us a bit of an update of what's been happening in her world over the last few months and how she's managing out there on the front line and obviously working towards getting ready for the other side of all this. So welcome, Gemma.
Thank you for having us.
Pleasure. And like always, we'll get you to kick off with a bit of your backstory or your origin story into the wonderful world of travel and how you've sort of navigated your way through the last however many years and ended up in your own independent agency in Ferguson's Travel. So kick us off.
Sure, no problem at all. So I was raised in the UK and I spent sort of 20 years there before deciding, like a lot of other English people, that I was going to come and do a year in Australia. I put all my effort into that and did a lot of saving and organising, and I was all ready for my big adventure. And about 3 days before that, I got a phone call to say, from a boy that I'd met, to say, why don't you come to the States and come and live with me for a while. So I went off to Vail in Colorado. I was very naive and very young. I didn't even look at where I was going on a map. So I took off on a plane without a coat to go and live in Colorado in the winter, which probably not the smartest idea. I spent a year living in the States and loved it. And it just opened up my eyes to what travel was. I'd done a lot of family travel when I was young in Europe. So I'd done a lot of, sort of Tunisia, Malta, Cyprus, all those sort of areas that are quite common with package holidays or travel from the UK. But the States was just amazing. It was this diverse landscape that really captured my heart. And I thought, goodness, I never knew this was all here. You can stand in one spot in somewhere like Utah and see 4 completely different scenarios and sceneries. And it was just beautiful. So that really was my love of travel. And then this person happened to be an Australian, so they promised to bring me back to Australia, and I've been here 20 years. So eventually I came back. So that person is obviously now my husband. For probably about 16 years, I lived in Melbourne. I wasn't working in travel until about 2004. And I thought, this is what I want to do. I think I'm going to give this a go. And I went into a retail store in South Melbourne. I had a great area leader in Pete Shary, and I'm sure lots of people here will know Pete. And he was my area leader actually throughout pretty much my entire career within Flight Centre. And during that time, I worked at quite a few stores. Like lots of people, I moved around from one to another, city-based, Bayside, lots of different sort of scenarios. And then eventually I wanted to start a family of my own. So I was one of the first guinea pigs, if you like, to trial being a home agent that's connected to a store. And it was fantastic. It ticked a lot of boxes for me. I had my children. It was wonderful. I worked part-time, or I worked from home, popped into the office once a week, kept in contact with those clients, and it was really, really great. And then eventually I went on to Travel Associates. I recognized that I wanted something for my clients. I wanted a higher level to be able to offer them, and I thought that I was ready. So I took an opportunity to work again as a home agent, but for TA, and I did that for about 6 years or so. One of the biggest changes for me, I think personally, in 2013, my youngest daughter was diagnosed with a very serious illness. And it was a really good perspective for us to look at where we were as a family and also within our career and what we were doing. And I just thought that I wanted to do something different. I didn't want to be in the city anymore. I wanted to bring my family up in the country. So I moved, once she'd finished her treatment, we moved up to Mansfield, which is 3 hours north of Melbourne, at the foot of Mount Buller. It's a country town, very booming, busy, all year round country town. And I decided that I would continue and travel here, but very quickly realized I couldn't be a home agent, because this is a country town and it's a community where people need that face-to-face. They need to be able to come in and see you. And, I have the types of clients that literally will have saved up their cash for a year and under their mattress, and they want to come in and book that flight to Sydney, or I have the next person walk in and they're going to do the trip of a lifetime to Antarctica. So it's very diverse. And that's really where Ferguson's Travel came from, because I realized that I needed to have a brick sort of agency on the high street where people could come in. I was a little bit nervous at first because I hadn't done retail consulting face-to-face for a very long time. So we're talking probably, not since 2007, maybe since before my daughter was born. And I wasn't sure really how to consult again with someone sitting in front of me, how to do that, end-to-end process, start to finish, have them walk out the door and get as much done as you could. But I didn't and sort of envisage that it would be that busy to start with. I thought I'd have the odd person pop in or have appointments. I certainly didn't anticipate that it would be opening up the can of worms to what it was. But of course, I'm really glad that it was. So within the first 2 years of Ferguson's Travel, I doubled my level of inquiry, I doubled my level of commission. So I doubled my earnings within 12 months, which for me is phenomenal. And I was really pleased about that. I had this lovely business in Melbourne, but suddenly came up here and realized that there was a whole new network of people. I'm the only travel agent for an hour's drive. So I've got a really captive audience, but also a really good audience because there's a lot of sort of self-funded retirees and people who've moved to the country that want to spend their cash. So this is a really good opportunity for me. And Ferguson's Travel up until COVID was absolutely booming, to the point where I'd hired staff, I'd looked at expanding and was trying to work out where I could go from now with, not enough hours in the day really. So that's where I am and that's where I've come from.
And how's the last sort of 3 months or so been for you? And I know that obviously you moved away from having the bricks and mortar business open and having to work obviously from home based on restrictions and so forth.
Yeah.
And I know that you just recently had the opportunity to reopen. How's the last few months been in general across the board?
Yeah, okay. So interestingly, whilst we were sitting in Thailand at our conference, Josh, we were sitting there going, how is this, what is going to happen? Like, the reality of COVID was starting to hit. Whilst we were in Thailand at that conference, I started communicating with clients. There was quite a few clients actually that were due to pay money during that time, or certainly when I came back, I had lots of appointments. I contacted all of them and just said, just hold fire. I don't feel comfortable taking your money at this point in time. I think this is not going to be great. In 16 years of travel, even though like many of my colleagues, we've seen ups and downs of, SARS and airline collapses and tsunamis, and I just had a feeling that this wasn't going to be great. So I put a pause on all trade as much as I could. And then when I returned, my first frustration was probably the fact that I had back-to-back appointments for 2-3 weeks and I went into self-isolation. So that was the first frustration, that I had a lot of elderly clients that really needed to have that face-to-face consultation to know what was happening to their money that they've spent a long time saving up for these big dream trips. So my initial frustrations was trying to get in contact with those clients. How could I be the best consultant that I needed to be for them? So that was the initial frustration. That frustration has changed over time. They quickly adapted to me working from home. But the next sort of frustration was obviously, as a lot of us have experienced, just the time frames in order to try and achieve something. When you've got hundreds of bookings affected, the time to go through each one of those, and also the frustration, of course, is that the policies change constantly. So that's been a second sort of frustration. And now there's another level of frustration because the world is starting to travel slightly again. And of course we weren't ready for that, but now the time frames to contact suppliers and to be able to do new quotes on new bookings is, it's like we've never experienced before. So it's just those different levels. In terms of the agency, look, it's been great to reopen. I came into the office a few times, just to sort of pick up things over the last couple of months. And it was a really dead space. All my plants had died and it was cold and damp. And I thought, I don't want to come back, maybe I could just carry on from home again. And then I sort of gave myself a kick up the butt and went, come in, clean it, make sure it's all nice. And then since I came back, it's just been lovely. I have people walking in pretty much every day. They keep their distance, but they walk in just to say hi and pop their heads in and check how I've been going, which is so lovely. The support from my community has been really strong, and I think that's a testament to what my business has done in Mansfield in the last few years.
And I know that because obviously we had a chat previously, but I know you haven't been as affected by the cancellations or you know, as many customers necessarily seeking a full cancellation, full refund. I know that you haven't had a lot of you know, backlash or any sort of customer, I guess, aggravations or aggressive customers or anyone making really upset. You know, I'd like you to tell us a little bit more about how you feel that you know, what you've done leading up to this point has set you up so that the environment you're in is still one that's you know, quite pleasant, I guess, in a sense, you know, considering everything's going around you.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't think I'm alone in this. There are a lot of really good consultants out there, probably far better than I am, but they're out there doing the right thing by their clients with trust. So I think that my sort of Melbourne-based business that I had for many years before I moved to the country, I already had their trust and their relationship. You know, they've known my children since they were born, when I carried them in a bassinet to their house. You know, they've seen us develop, they've seen me grow, and they've seen the business. So I always knew that they would be fine. The country clients that I have sort of picked up in the last few years, I was a little bit more apprehensive about, because, you know, they don't know me. They've got their money sitting with me. Am I going to have this problem of, you know, they're going to be worried that I'm going to go out of business, for example? But I quickly realized that I must have done the right thing, because the response has been really quite amazing. I just mentioned to you before we came online today that I live 20 k's out of town. So my agency is in the high street, but I live on a rural property, 100 acres out of town. I had maybe 5 or 6 lots of clients, some not even with current bookings, that came out to my house and bought flowers, champagne, wine. Some of them just to say, we're thinking of you, we just want to make sure you're okay. When you're ready, we're here to support you. You know, we can't wait to see you back, which is really lovely. I haven't had any backlash, touch wood. Everyone, I've just sort of really kept that communication open and just said, this is what we're doing. Put your trust in me. I suppose it's a bit like a faith thing, really. Don't cancel now. Wait until I tell you to cancel. You know, trust me, this is going to be okay. I'm going to do everything I can to get your money back or to get your credit. You've got to trust that I know what I'm doing. And that worked really well for some clients that were really, you know, anxious and apprehensive. They just wanted to cancel straight away. And I sort of, you know, persuaded them to wait as long as possible. And in the end, that's what worked in their advantage financially. So they're thrilled, you know, and that comes with experience, I suppose.
Yeah, and I guess, you know, just hearing that, you know, trust is probably the biggest word that, you know, you continue to keep using, that they trust you and they trust that you're going to do the right thing by them. So, you know, it's a pure example, I guess, of what we're trying to achieve, you know, even moving forward. You know, is to get to a point where, you know, that open communication, that transparency, that trust is a real key, not only to being successful in this business, but also being able to still thrive or at least survive, you know, through, you know, the challenging times like we're seeing at the moment. So, you know,
I think also one thing that's been really evident to me, and it's not across the board because I realize that not everyone's in this situation, but I haven't had one commission recall yet, and I probably won't, which is, you know, I think I had, I don't know, maybe 400 or 500 bookings affected. So it's a fairly big client base for a country town. But I've gone on the basis of saying to people, you know, I have sort of avoided the word commission, but I have said that the fee that the airline pays me or the tour company pays me at the time that we did the booking, that's not refunded or covered by that particular institution. So I'm happy to honour that for you as a future credit with Ferguson's Travel, but I'm not physically able to give you back that cash. Is that okay? Some people have said, don't even worry about the credit. Like, they've gone, you know, it's fine. We want to support you. We want to know you're doing a good job. We don't want to see your business in jeopardy, which is lovely. But moving forward, you know, those credits, of course, will come up in a year's time or 2 years' time. But I'm hoping that I'll be able to cover those and look at, you know, what I can do to upsell or assist those clients in the future. So that has been really, a really positive thing as well, I suppose, is that I'm in the fortunate position where I'm not handing back lots of money.
And what would you say, I mean, you mentioned a couple of things, but what's been the most frustrating part of this whole, you know, whole period as a frontline agent? You know, what parts of the industry are just ones you're just going, really wish that that wasn't part of it. I really wish that that wasn't something that I had to deal with. What do you think that is?
Yeah, sure. I think it's change. As humans, we're not very good at adapting to change, and I think that comes, even nowadays, the flight center changes every 5 minutes, and the sort of disgruntled consultants sitting behind the desk have to deal with, and that's the same as today. So the constant change of airline policies, tour policies. For me personally, the biggest frustration is that I'm a person that likes to have all the ends tied up and everything finished. And instead, I've got hundreds of bookings that are open, and I'm having to keep revisiting them and going back and touching bases with the clients over and over again. So for me, it's about not being able to have a finished product, not being able to say, yep, that's done, I can move on to the next one. It's just all these open ends. And that for me is probably the biggest frustration. The changes, as I said, we have to adapt to them. That is the nature of the industry. It is fluid. It will continue to change. We can't get caught up in that and the negativity that surrounds that. We have to just embrace the fact that it is going to change and it's going to continue to change. Our job is to sort of address that with the positivity and assist the clients through that as best as we can. But yeah, a lot of consultants will probably be completely out of the depth. I have been at times as well. But we just have to remain positive and know that we're there for them and we can keep helping them through these changes.
And if you have had any time or found any time, to sort of reassess things or look at your business from the outside looking in, is there anything that you've been working on or you've started to be working on to get yourself ready for what maybe the future could look like for your business and maybe the industry in general? Have you got any plans in the work of something along those lines?
Yeah, so when I did return from Thailand and COVID became a reality that we were facing, I had to step down both of my staff that I just started to grow my business. So I had an office manager that did all my marketing and did all my sort of documents and things like that. But social media is not my friend, and so I've had to become a little bit more techno-friendly, if you like. So I've been teaching myself some of that sort of stuff in my spare time. I've also had the opportunity to sort of say, okay, how can I do this differently? Because sadly, we probably are going to see circumstances, hopefully not this grave, but we are going to see a recurrence of this sort of thing in the future. So how can I prepare myself better? And how can I prepare clients for that better? Do I need to become more transparent about fees? Do I need to be more transparent about where your money goes when you pay a travel agent? They're the sort of things that I'm thinking of. Terms and conditions, of course, the T's and C's that are in the back of people's brochures are not going to be sufficient moving forwards. We need to think about how we educate and how we inform our clients to make sure that they still require that middle person as a travel agent and they're not going to go direct. So yes, my plan is probably more about putting those sort of things into place. I've redone my business plan for the next year. I've looked at how I can up staff again, in time. I've got a meeting with my old office manager this afternoon, so I can just touch base with her and say, you're still there, you're in the background. As soon as I'm making money, you're going to be welcomed back. That's the sort of things that I'm keeping in mind.
Yeah, cool. And what about from an industry perspective? What are your thoughts around, if you had a bit of a magic wand, or if you could have some influence, or you could push some buttons somewhere that would create the industry that you want to be in and you want to work in, and you would know would help you be as successful as you possibly could be. What things would you like to see changed or improved coming out of all of this?
Well, I think that this whole COVID-19 will give people and industries, so I'm talking about suppliers, airlines, I'm hoping that it will give them a bit of a shake-up, that they do need to have a contingency plan for the future. There needs to be more consistency and more communication. When, hopefully it doesn't, but if a situation like this arises again, it is satisfactory to sit on the phone to an airline for 4.5 hours and then simply either connected or you're not getting an answer to what you want at the end of that. So we have to all improve our standards to make sure that if this happens again, that we get the support that we need as well as the clients. But that's probably what I would like to see us moving forward, is that there are answers that can be received easier than they have been, because I'm sure we've all been pulling our hair out, ringing airlines and hotels overseas, suppliers that have long hold times, and that's frustrating. Of course it is, we all know that. But yeah, moving forward, that would be what I would hope would come from this is that they improve those standards to make it more workable for everybody.
And we know, I guess, in general, just in society, when disasters happen of any way, shape or form, it creates new policies, new procedures, new things in place that, you know, will hopefully be proactive or anticipate how to deal with these situations moving forward. So yeah, I think you're right in that is, you know, when everybody gets a chance to reflect on, you know, and self-audit, I guess, on how they performed. You know, how did you perform through this period, whether that's from an individual travel agent to a supplier to an airline to a hotel to everybody, you know, by doing that self-audit and understanding what it is that they did through that period, what they could have done better, what they thought they did well, then maybe we can all see a new industry full of new procedures and new things in place that allow, you know, again, as you said, we don't want this to happen again, but if it did, you know, that we could, you know, cope a little bit better than, you know, we possibly have.
Yeah. I also think like a really positive thing to come out of this has been sort of colleague support as well. You know, as I said to you, I've been sort of working solo for a very long time, either based or now in my agency here. So to reach out and to know that there's other people, some of the people that have contacted me as travel consultants or suppliers or whoever that have reached out and been able to assist and offer assistance without me even asking for it, that's been really impressive. There was a lady within Travel Partners who I've never met and I haven't spoken to her, but she very kindly put a message out saying, I'm ringing this airline, whoever needs an answer, please send me your questions. She was on the phone for nearly 5 hours on hold, but was able to assist 6 or 7 consultants and saved us all sitting on the phone for that period of time. So that's a really positive to come out of this disaster as well, is that we now perhaps have more contacts that we can reach out to for our own mental space as well. Because no doubt this has been stressful for everybody, but we just have to keep that positivity going, I think.
Yeah, and just a collective approach to everything. You know, we've heard similar stories come out across the industry, whether it's Facebook groups or you know, people just connecting through different networks, LinkedIn, all sorts of different places, and finding there's people out there that want to help, and you know, it's kind of like as we all sit here. You know, me in my different t-shirts every day, and you know, almost anyone that jumps on these Zooms, nearly no one's in a uniform at the moment, which is great, you know, because really it doesn't matter what you wear, you know, it doesn't matter what color you're part of or what you're connected to. We are, and it's cliche, there is this, you know, we are in this together. You know, we're at least in this situation together. You know, everyone's being affected by it. And a collective approach to solving the current problems that we have. Hopefully everybody can see that the benefit of that collective approach should be not when we're in disaster mode, but maybe just when we're in abundance mode and when things are going well, you know, because, you know, you want worthy rivals. You want people competing in a certain way so that we all become the better versions of ourselves. But
that's right.
If that's to the detriment of us all being able to play in this game moving forward, then, you know, that's not really going to help anybody. So I think for me, that's definitely something that's come out of it, is that the cohesion and the people willing to do whatever, you know, for anybody, knowing that we're all suffering, we're all going through this challenge together. So I'm glad that you've experienced that also.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's been really good. So it's been great.
And what's next for you? I mean, you're a very avid traveller when you get the chance to, no doubt, like the rest of us. Have you got some stuff in the works? Did you have to cancel anything this year? Have you postponed anything? Have you got a short break, you know, due coming soon?
Yeah, so my big trip last year was a year of travel. Like I managed to do, you know, 3 or 4 big trips last year, which was fantastic. For a number of years I didn't travel because my youngest daughter was seriously ill, so we weren't actually able to leave Australia. So for, you know, I've now sort of rekindled that love of travel again, which is great. I was supposed to be in May on the trip of a lifetime, so I was supposed to be doing a trip for a month on my own. So I was leaving from Beijing and doing the Trans-Siberian, Trans-Mongolian across to St. Petersburg. That was an incentive that I won and I worked really, really hard for. So I was obviously devastated not to be able to on that, but it has been postponed, and I will be going on that next year, which will be amazing. So yes, of course I was disappointed, but now I can look forward. Family stuff, I haven't worked that out yet. I think it's just a case my kids are still resettling back into school, knowing what that entails. And of course, Victoria, we know, it's not very far we can go at the moment with borders, but once they start to reopen, then yes, I will look at that. But otherwise, my big trip will rehappen next year.
Awesome. And before we let you go, like we do normally, ask for a bit of a nomination, or get somebody to mention somebody else that you think could add some value to the group and share their story. Is there anyone that you could think of that you think would want to jump on?
Yeah, sure. I'll nominate a sort of power couple, I suppose, in travel. That's Jo Langhorne. So Jo, one of my closest friends, and has been amazingly supportive to me over the last few months. Jo has been a consultant for 20-something years, amazingly experienced. She runs her own incredible division of travel, usually in India, called Soulful Escapes. I think she would add an awful lot and be able to contribute. And the second person would be her husband, Mark Langhorne. He was my manager for quite a few years in Travel Associates, and to be quite honest, I've never respected anyone more. So if there's someone that if Mark can find the time to talk to people, I think he would be amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Both of those would add a huge amount of value to the group.
Yeah.
And both very, very lovely people. So if they can find some time to jump on, that would be awesome. But mate, thanks so much. Thanks so much for your time today. It's been great, and it's great to hear your story. It's great to hear that you're back in the office. It's great to hear how well you've done through this time in regards to looking after your customers and the respect that you've gained in that community of yours. And it's a testament to what you've been doing up until this point. The reflection of how things have gone for you over these months. And I think for anybody out there, whatever's happened to you over these few months is really a reflection of what everything you were doing leading up to that point. And if you're getting the results that you are, and the people coming out to you with the wine and the flowers and all of those things, the care that's shown back to you is a testament of what you've been doing up until this point, and you will continue to do, no doubt. So keep going with that. Keep fighting the good fight, and thank you. Hopefully, we'll catch up on the other side of all this, and
absolutely
see Ferguson's travel back to where it was pre-COVID.
Yeah, no problem. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I just want to finish myself as well, and saying that anyone that does want to talk, for my lack of wisdom, but if anyone does want to have a chat, or feel free to give me a call. I'd be more than happy to offer any advice that I can.
Cool. Thanks, mate. Really appreciate it. We'll talk soon, no doubt. Thanks heaps.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you. Bye.